My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back to another show, everybody. Eli here, and today's guest, this dude I met at the Badass Business Summit back in September, and it was so funny. Here's the story, and he knows the story now. So is that originally he was going to be one of my guests that was supposed to come on the show that we were recording right there live. But the biggest thing about it was that they scheduled people for me, and I was like, okay, but my show is about people that I meet that I know ahead of time. And today's guest, Liam Darmody, he and I hadn't actually met yet. And it was like, okay, I can't have an interview with this guy because I know nothing about him. We haven't talked. I don't know him yet. And so I had to tell him, I was like, I can't do this. And so we ended up moving it around, all this kind of stuff. And he didn't even know this at the time. He hadn't even been put on, like he didn't even know the schedule yet. So we'll talk about that when I bring him on here. But what ended up happening with this was like later that day, he and I end up having a conversation and going to lunch. We went to In-N-Out Burger, had a great time. And I'm like, all right, well, it's too late now, but I'm definitely going to have to get this dude on my show. So that's why we are here today. So let me tell you a little bit about Liam. Liam is a personal brand and social selling strategist who helps entrepreneurs, executives build magnetic brands that attract clients, talent, and opportunity on LinkedIn specific, which is one of the reasons why I want him to come hang out today, because LinkedIn is a big deal at this particular juncture in our world. When he's not working, he can be found spending time with his wife and 2 kids in Raleigh, North Carolina, sampling hot sauces from his vast collection. So, Liam, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Eli, wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So it was a fun conversation. You and I bonded over In-N-Out Burger, which is about as cool as it gets.
Absolutely. I hadn't had In-N-Out Burger since probably 2007, maybe. So
okay.
it was nearly 2 decades in the making, and I really appreciate the fact that we got a chance to have a good conversation over a delicious meal.
Yes, definitely. The great thing is that, if it had been since 2007, the menu probably didn't change much, did it?
Nope, definitely
not.
I forgot that I had to ask for animal style and that it was a secret. That's how long it had been.
That is hilarious. That is awesome. But it was really cool. You and I had a couple of great conversations. You were up on stage sharing stuff related to LinkedIn. You were on the panel there. So give us, what else should we know about you? What else did I not talk about on your intro?
Let's see. So I'm originally from Canada. I was born and raised in Toronto. Moved to the States in 97. My parents got divorced and I moved west to California. That was a pretty big culture shock for me. So I moved back east in 98 and went to college in DC for 20 years. I thought I wanted to be a politician, and changed my mind pretty quickly after I got there and met some politicians. So I studied international relations, and then I got into the recruiting world, and then shortly thereafter, I started working in technology startups, doing really sort of kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. I was just somebody who threw at problems and I fixed them. And so I spent about 18 years in operations, sales operations at technology startups before pivoting to do what I do now.
Very cool. Awesome. So based on, that's quite the resume of how you've kind of moved around from everything and politics into social media of all things,
Yeah, everything seems to move into social.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. What was it that got you into LinkedIn, and why did you pick that platform above everything else?
It's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've never really been all that big on social media in general. I was on Facebook and Twitter earlier in the early stages of those platforms, but it was just a lot of noise for me. I didn't really find that I was getting a tremendous amount of value from it. And what I realized was I was spending a lot more time. This is around 2019, 2020. I was spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. I was reading a lot of articles. I was enjoying reading other people's take on business. And that was a passion of mine as well. So when my daughter was born in 2019, in November of 2019, I actually decided I was going to stop lurking and stop consuming content exclusively and start actually trying to have a little bit of conversation myself. And that's basically when I went all in and started being a lot more intentional on the platform. I started looking for people to connect with who I found interesting. I started sharing my own opinions about things. And fast forward 5 years later, I'm now running a company that tries to do the same thing for other people and teach them how to really get the benefit out of the platform that I have found. It has really been a game changing platform for me, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's very true. I went from being in operations, thinking I should have been in marketing and I should have been in brand, and to actually being in brand. And it was all because of LinkedIn. I had a interview with a company that was for a director of revenue operations role, and the chief marketing officer in the interview said, "I think you could do this job, but I actually think I have something that you'd be better at." And he said, "I'm trying to build an employer brand and talent marketing team, and I need somebody who thinks like an operator and is strategic, um, can set up sort of an automated machine that will help us achieve these aggressive hiring targets so that we can get acquired." And he said, "With your brand experience and your sales marketing experience, I think you'd be a great fit." And I was like, "Well, I'm flattered by that, but I don't have any brand marketing experience," because I didn't have any at that point. It was just a hobby. It was me being on LinkedIn talking about what I think on LinkedIn. And he equated that with the skills needed for that specific job. And that's when it really blew my mind that, this platform has the potential to change the trajectory of your career, right? You could spend 22 decades wishing you did something else and then just show your passion for that thing, and somebody can latch onto it and create opportunity for you that you didn't know existed. That was the biggest thing for me, is that I would never in a million years have applied to a position like that because I figured it was automatic rejection on the side of the recruiter. And the fact that he had said to me, "I've been watching you on LinkedIn for 6 months. All I want you to do is take the same exact skills that you're applying to your own personal brand and help us build that for our company." And that was an innovative way to think about it. I think a lot of other people in his position probably wouldn't have necessarily taken a chance like that. But all you're really looking to do when you're building a personal brand is find those people who are attracted to the way that you speak and the way that you relate on social platforms like LinkedIn. And then when they have opportunities, they come knocking. And that's really what an effective brand is supposed to do, is attract the right audience and detract the wrong one. So that's how I got started. It's been great.
I love it. And there's so much to unpack in what you just said there. It was great because, there's a couple of different things, and I want to make sure that we're going to touch on all of them. One of them that I thought, I think was great. And this is something I have been preaching: personal brand for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, even with my first web design agency, we
Nice.
had it around. It's like, yes, you have a company, but you are the face, you are the voice of the company. You need to get out there and talk more. And that could be, maybe you're not doing videos necessarily, because back then video online wasn't really a thing yet. But whether you're writing articles, whether you're sending emails, when people connect with you, you're going to networking events. It's you going to the networking events. It's not the company going to the networking events. A company doesn't move.
That's right.
It's a person who does the thing. And so I've been preaching personal brand for damn near 30 years.
Nice.
And I think it's so funny that now it's become such a thing. And it really comes in. And one of the things that I have found, and I'm spending more time on LinkedIn because I didn't mind LinkedIn for a while. It was fairly early on. Then Microsoft bought them and they kind of ruined it for a long time. And I wasn't a big fan of it. And then more recently, probably in the last year, I've started stepping back up. And a lot of that is, you and I met because of the summit through Success Champions. And a lot of people there are very, very active on LinkedIn. I was like, okay, I need to give the wicked stepchild a little bit of love here. And I started being more active on it. And it is really a great platform for personal brand, building that. So here's, I want to kind of go into a couple questions with that. what is it that makes LinkedIn different than the other platforms? And what is it that really grabs the attention differently?
It is different than other platforms. And I say that LinkedIn is not just a job site. It's not just a social media platform. Um, my tagline is that LinkedIn is a serendipity manifestation engine. And that is not sexy by any stretch, but it's very accurate. If you show up on LinkedIn consistently and authentically, and you are intentional about building an audience and a network on that platform, opportunity will find you that you didn't realize existed. And that gives us a tremendous amount of opportunity to make our own luck, where I think it's not necessarily the same elsewhere. Um, in short, I think the biggest difference is authenticity. LinkedIn expects you to show up as who you are, to the extent that they're offering verification on their platform, so that you can guarantee that you are who you say you are. And I think on a lot of other platforms, there's a bunch of keyword warriors who are, hiding behind, pseudonyms, and they just kind of troll people. And there's a lot of negativity on other platforms. By contrast, LinkedIn is very much a supportive environment, right? It's a platform where people go to try and show the best version of themselves. And when I say best version, I don't mean, driving around in Lamborghinis and, a lot of the hype that you see on other platforms. Although there's more of that now than there was, but really it's about people just showing their lived experience and showing their journey, as a professional. And that, to me, is what makes it so unique. And I think the thing that's also very interesting is that there's this stigma that people have about LinkedIn, where they think that, they can't share their voice there. I get it from people all the time. They're like, I'm not an expert in this field, or nobody cares what I have to say on this topic. Nobody cares what I have to say about business. And so there's an intimidation factor about opening up on LinkedIn, because, to your point, we've been conditioned to sort of use that platform simply as a utility to store our existing networks and potentially find jobs every few years. But we're not really accustomed to using the platform in between our jobs to talk about the experience that we're having within business. And that's what it's becoming. And I think now more than ever, personal and professional lines are blurring, right? And so I think you're seeing people start to infuse a little bit more humanity into their business world. And when those two things combine, it creates a pretty interesting place to spend time. And so that, I think, is the biggest thing, is that it is an intimidating place to start creating content, because it forces you to take a leap and have some self-promotion and some self-confidence. But to your point, our personalities are really as much a part of our success as our skills are, and in some cases probably even potentially more so. And so if you stop viewing your personality as a liability, and you start viewing your personality as an asset, and you promote it, good things will happen to you inevitably on LinkedIn. And I can't say that that's happened to me anywhere else. So that's what I think makes it pretty unique.
Nice. And that you brought up something that's actually pretty, I think is really important that we first to talk about, related that, because you talk about people coming in as authentic and being themselves. One thing that's always been off-putting for me was that LinkedIn always seemed very corporate, very professional, where, like Facebook, I definitely do my business stuff. I promote my business. I talk business. I add tips, tricks, resources, videos, all that kind of stuff. But I also, like, I just posted this goofy thing. If anybody's watching me, they can go see it. I saw an ad on Facebook for a Groupon for advertising Singles Day. Go visit the medieval torture museum. And I'm just like, okay, where did this thing come from? Is like, okay, there's a fun activity for the day. And my twisted mind says, okay, maybe I should go check that out, because it'd be kind of entertaining. But that's the kind of thing I would post on, Facebook or even Instagram, but I wouldn't necessarily post that on LinkedIn, because it's a different side. It's like the goofy, the personal. Like, anybody knows me, knows I'm a Ren Fair guy. People also know I'm an archer, and I don't really post any of that kind of stuff on LinkedIn.
Interesting.
I post all that stuff on Facebook or Instagram.
Yep.
And then, that's where there's like those certain things like that I don't necessarily post on LinkedIn, because I've always viewed it as the grown up page versus the teenager page, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of the different mindset behind it. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I know it's making a shift. I want to hear your thoughts, being the go-to guy on this.
Yeah, I think that you are going to start seeing people posting more content like that on the platform, and I think that the the way that I encourage people to think about how to approach LinkedIn is to treat it very much like a journal that you would share with family, friends, and colleagues. And I say all three of those, not either or, right? But theoretically, when we were working in offices, a lot of us are not working in offices anymore, but a lot of us, when we were, we would talk to our colleagues about things like being an archer, or the things that make us unique, and the interests that we have, and the hobbies that we have. For me, I have 65 hot sauces sitting on racks in my office. Like, I would talk about hot sauce and even encourage my employees to come to my desk and sample hot sauce when I was working in professional environments. So I think you are going to start seeing a lot more of that kind of combination of the two. And for me, I sort of view LinkedIn as a place to share the things that you're passionate about, the things that fascinate you, the things that you're skilled at doing. And as somebody who has tried archery with my son on a number of occasions, I will say that I have an appreciation for how difficult it is. And so if you put a video of yourself lacing a bunch of arrows into a target, I would probably say, wow, that's really, that takes skill. And I would react to that, and I would engage with that. And part of that is because it is giving us a little bit more of what makes Eli Eli. And I think that is really something that a lot of people are craving at the moment, is the true authentic vibe of
Mm-hmm.
what makes us professionals. We're human first. We're
Right.
professionals second, right? So I think you're seeing a little bit of cross pollination happening there.
Good. And I like hearing that, because that's one of the things that like I said, it's not like I'm hiding any of myself. I'm
Right.
just not as forthcoming on a lot of the stuff that I would do more on the personal side than I do on the LinkedIn side. It's like, okay, there's certain things I just don't put over there.
Right.
And that's kind of the big question, is like, okay, now you're saying, okay, yeah, no, it is okay to put that stuff over there.
Yep.
Which is good. Now I'll put some more goofy stuff over on LinkedIn. So, and I desperately need to go to the archery range more often. So I have those videos and pictures and stuff, because I have not gone nearly enough. I actually went to go a week and a half ago with a friend. Actually, you might have met him, Bravis Brown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at the summit. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
there. So he actually joined me. So I got to take him to go shoot his first arrows. That was kind of fun.
That's awesome. I love
Um,
it.
yeah, but it's that's one of the things. It's like, okay, people misunderstand it. I know a lot of people outside of like our community see LinkedIn as this is a place for job search. And I mean, for years now, we've been saying, no, not really. I mean, yes, that's a piece of it. And if that's what you're looking for, then you must be on there. But that's not all there is to it. Cause since LinkedIn has existed, I've never looked for a job, you
Right.
know? So we gotta see where where is that going, seeing it above and beyond. But then the next step is understanding what kind of stuff can you post, which is a good question. It's like, what kind of stuff should people be posting? And for somebody who's not been active on LinkedIn, where should they get started?
So I think, the things that I encourage people to post, people that are just starting out, I typically say you should sort of break down your content categories into three buckets. The first is kind of your scope of genius bucket, right? This is the stuff that you do that lights you up. It's the value that you bring to clients or to companies. It's your skill set. From a business perspective, you're sort of looking at those types of posts as sales and marketing posts. You're putting yourself out there and you're saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is why it's valuable. And you're trying to get new business from that. The second bucket is more along the lines of fascination. So what are the things that light you up outside of business? What do you find yourself reading? What could you spend hours talking about with somebody who's interested in the same thing? And why do you like those things? And so for me, I talk a lot about technology. I've sort of said my fascination bucket is innovation. I love the pace at which technology is moving. I love the advancements in thinking around, decentralized finance and the next version or iteration of the web. So I talk about those types of things all the time. And as a result of that, I've built a network of people that are in those spaces who are also now paying attention to what I do for business. And so it's, the interest graph is starting to become a lot more valuable online. And then I'd say the third bucket, and this is where it gets a little bit more uncomfortable, is I call those window into your personal world. And those posts are the ones that maybe take a little bit more vulnerability to post. They're a bit more uncomfortable. They make you think twice, like, is this too personal for this environment? They also happen to be the ones that usually fly, through the roof, right? Engagement wise, because they do show a little bit of vulnerability and they show the human side of you. And, I talk a lot about what it's like to be a first-time founder. I talk about what it's like to be on a weight loss journey where, I've spent the better part of my adult life trying to get into a shape that is less round. um, and it's not been easy, but it's a struggle that I deal with. And I invite my network to see the reality of that. And, I recently posted a picture on LinkedIn of myself dressed as a s'more for Halloween. And I thought twice about it. I was like, I don't know, is this too personal? And it ended up getting 500,000 impressions. And it's the most effective post I've had in the entire year. And you got to ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, you have a 300-pound man who's out there on Halloween, just putting it all out there, quite literally. And it takes guts to put yourself out there, but the fact that you're willing to do it takes courage, and people react well to courageous behavior and owning your truth, and I think that is, in a world where we're very quickly starting to doubt a lot of the things that we see online, the authenticity of what we see online. It's refreshing to just have a bunch of people that are putting out content that shows the real human side of business. And that, I think, is a very powerful thing.
I love that. And it is true. I mean, people want to have this is the part. I mean, this is what I'm always working with clients on is it's people do business with you. They want to get to know you. Now, obviously there's a certain point where, people losing their minds over things, let's not, because nobody wants the negativity side, but the reality is that people do business with you because they resonate with you. They like you. Like every one of us, anybody in business, no matter what industry, we got a million other people doing the same damn thing.
Yep.
What makes us different is us.
That is, in my opinion, that you've hit the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. There are so many people who are like, oh, well, they view things from a scarcity mindset, and they're not thinking about the fact that their personality is what separates you from everybody else out there, right? There's no shortage of accountants and lawyers and real estate agents, and every profession has millions of people in it. What makes you different is the personality that you bring to it. And the more you share that candidly and openly, the more likely you are to attract the right customer that wants to work with that type of person. And that attraction model is what personal branding is very much becoming. And I think that it's very powerful.
I love it. That is awesome. It's exactly what I was going for. Very cool. By the way, congratulations on going through the weight loss journey, because I do that myself. I've been going through it, and you and I should definitely talk offline, because it's been an interesting drive. And then does
right?
What was that?
Hardest thing you can do.
Yeah.
But also the most worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you brought that up, because like literally 2-3 weeks ago, not very long ago, it was less than a month ago for sure, I had a picture that like Google Photos sent me a then and now kind of picture. Mm-hmm. And it was a picture. And the funny thing was, it was almost a year apart. And the first picture was a year ago at the Badass Business Summit. And I was in the audience, and somebody had taken it was Matt, who did the photography last year and this year. He posted, or the picture he had done was of me holding the mic, asking a question. Mm-hmm. And then this year it was, August. So it was not quite a year. It was August this year. I was speaking at an event here, and somebody had got a picture of me and sent it to me. And So Google had saw the two, did a side by side splice, and I was like, holy crap, the difference here is
Wow.
phenomenal. And I took that and I did, it was like, it's sometimes you have to see, sometimes you have to be reminded of the progress you've made. And I did this side by side picture, and I had, September 2023, August, September 24. And I posted it on Facebook, but I didn't think that something like that would go on LinkedIn.
Mm.
And so it's interesting that, you're bringing this out because it's making me think a lot more about some of the content that I'm putting on the other social medias. Yes, I should probably go ahead and put that on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think personal accomplishments and examples of us as humans triumphing over challenges, that's great content on LinkedIn because it's about the human experience. And we all have wins, we have losses, we have everything in between. And up until recently, we were afraid to talk about all of it publicly, right? We would talk about the wins, but the murky middle and the losses were things that we didn't really acknowledge because we were worried that it would reflect poorly on our professional reputations.
Right.
But really, there's find me an entrepreneur who hasn't found success in failure in some capacity. Like
Mhm.
that is part of the journey. And if you can acknowledge that and you can share that with people, then you're creating space for other people to feel like they can rely on you for authenticity. And I think that's a very powerful thing.
Very cool. Love it. So, next question I have for you related to the next step, because you already kind of covered the starting points of type of content that you should put out there. Um, what about the interaction with other people? How big of a play is that? And what is a good, I hate to be too clinical about it and say, what's a good strategy for commenting on other people's stuff? Because that makes it sound very clinical and boring, and like you're only commenting just for the purpose of getting hits. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Kind of give us a rundown of what your thought is on that direction.
I actually believe that commenting on content on LinkedIn is probably the most important thing that you can do. And I often will work with clients who maybe aren't really quite ready to post content. They're not really sure how they feel about writing, or they're not really sure what stories they'll tell. And so I say, fine, we can shelve that for now. We can focus on just improving your presence on the platform by showing up, finding the right people who are speaking about topics that that you're passionate about, and start adding to the conversation. Few people know this, but I think back in 2017, LinkedIn started an ad campaign called Join the Conversation. And I remember when I first saw it, I was a bit befuddled. I was like, what do you mean join the conversation? Nobody talks on LinkedIn. It's just a bunch of people sharing, press releases from their company and congratulating each other on new jobs. So it was a little bit premature, but it was a sign of, I think, the strategy that LinkedIn was trying to put into play. And we're starting to see that come to fruition now. When you go into somebody's content on LinkedIn, people who have been creating content there for a few years and have been building an audience and who's engaged, those conversations that are happening are very lively, and there are threads upon threads within the comment section of people who are coming from all over LinkedIn just to have a conversation on that specific post. And so I often tell people the best place to start if you're just trying to dip your toes into LinkedIn is by finding people who are in the industry that you're in, who are creating content on the platform, and start having conversations on the content that they're creating. Leave your 2 cents, and fight the little voice in your head that's saying, well, my 2 cents don't matter. And just start thinking, well, this person's posting content on a platform about a topic that I'm very passionate and knowledgeable about. I'm going to just start adding my thoughts to that, and contributing and sharing my position and my perspective. And maybe I'll meet some new people out of this who are into the same interests that I'm into. And that will result in relationships building and forming. And I honestly, in 5 years, I have made so many connections and established so many friendships with people on this platform who I never would have come across otherwise. And I could probably go to any major city in North America, certainly at this point, and find a few folks from LinkedIn that I could have coffee with. And and rely on for help in a jam. And that's a really powerful thing. I think if you view LinkedIn as essentially one big conference of all the world's business professionals, and over there is your segment, right? That's the industry that you're in, and there's a bunch of people who are already creating content there, and maybe you're not there yet. Go find those folks and start adding those folks to your network. Start growing your network. Start commenting on people's stuff, and then you'll eventually get to a place where you're inspired from the conversations you're having with other people to start creating your own content. And that's when you really start to get into the rhythm of it, because you'll add maybe 20 comments per day or 10 comments per day on content that you're seeing in your feed. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, that comment really struck a chord with a bunch of people. I'm going to turn that into a post. And I do that all the time. I mean, my comments are very regularly inspiration for longer form posts that I write, because you can get real-time validation, right? People reacting to your comment on a post from somebody who's got a very engaged audience kind of validates whether or not it's worth creating as a post. So commenting is important. And I think the other thing is, it's interesting that you mention that it seems potentially calculated, or to have a strategy seems a little bit, inauthentic. But LinkedIn has so much information about all the people that are on the platform, and it's all right there for you. On Facebook, you don't know necessarily what somebody does for a living. You might, they have to put it on their profile for you to know, right? But on LinkedIn, it's almost mandatory. You basically just put your entire life history, your professional history there, so you can see who people are and what they do. That's a tremendous opportunity, right? I mean, you don't have to do lookalike audience advertising. You don't have to do anything. You can literally just make connections in your target customer profile, and from there you can start building relationships. And that's really what top of funnel sales is supposed to be. So that's actually, I think, the best strategy for anybody to start is just start commenting. And I think I view LinkedIn posts themselves as sort of like a keynote at a conference. And the conversation, that the comment section on that post, is almost like the networking that happens after the keynote is over, or at the happy hour where everyone's, kind of letting loose and having a good time. And they start conversing with one another. That sort of analogy has always kind of been in the background for me. And I think if you embrace it that way, you'll start to see success.
Very well said. I love it. And it also makes me think about the fact that I am great at posting. I am not as great about commenting on other people's stuff. So that's one thing I got to work more on. So thank you so much. That is awesome. My next question was going to be, okay, so what's our attack, a plan of attack for this? And you literally just laid it out. Number one, get out there, start commenting on other people's stuff, then use that as inspiration on what kind of stuff you want to post yourself.
That's right.
Pretty straightforward. Love it. Okay, so we got two final questions here. The last question is going to be the easy one. How do people get a hold of you? But before that, this is the Meet Cool People show. So I love to hear, and I ask every guest this, what does Meet Cool People mean to you?
So my favorite quote is, "There are no strangers here, only friends you have not yet met." And that's by Yates. And I apply that to business. I apply that to LinkedIn. I apply that to my day-to-day relationships with other people. And I have, for my entire life, valued nothing more than human relationships and human connection. I think part of that stems from me being an only child and wishing I had a sibling growing up. And to me, the idea of meet cool people is, we encounter so many different personalities and so many different human beings in our lifetime. How much time do we actually dedicate to really getting to know them and understand them, and have a real conversation, right? A lot of people we sort of meet in passing and have superficial conversations and small talk with, but meet cool people, to me, seems like you're going a level deeper than that. And you're really trying to go from, this person seems interesting, to, I want to get to know this person better. And there's a difference between admiring somebody's personality from afar and really getting to know them, and having a conversation where the two of you learn more about each other. And I think that's really magical. So I think it's a pretty fantastic name for a podcast. And I think it's awesome that you're doing it.
Thank you so much. I love it. And, you know, on top of that, get to know somebody, have a good meal, go to take them to In and Out. That's a good choice.
That's right. That's a great choice.
Yes. Awesome, my friend. All right. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn. There's only 3 Liam Darmodys on there, and I'm the only one in the United States. So I would be that would be the best place to get me. You can also find more information about me at liamsbrandstand.com. And yeah, that's pretty much the best place to find me. I'm not as easily reachable elsewhere.
Very cool. Well, we'll be sure to put the links in the show notes for it. And of course, I'm always going to recommend everybody connect with Liam. He posts some really cool stuff. He really does. You know, even above and beyond, but connect with him. He's a cool dude. That's the whole reason why I wanted to have him come on the show. So thank you so much, Liam. It has been a pleasure having you on the show. And, you know, thank you again for sharing your bits of wisdom about LinkedIn and kind of kicking me in the butt to be even more active on it.
I love what you're putting out there already. So you're already doing fine. You can only go up from here, which is great. Thank you so much for having me. I think this is a fantastic podcast, and I really enjoy getting to know you better. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, everybody, get out there. Have an amazing, amazing week. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out, let me know. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.